Today I'm joined by Jamie Pell. Jamie Pell is my head of client relationships and he joined me a couple of months ago. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of relationships, business development, learning some of Jamie's background and why he joined Inspired HR, but primarily to help HR consultants understand where they can find their clients and how they can build a sustainable business. So, without further ado, Jamie Pell, welcome
Hello.
to the podcast.
Morning, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for coming along.
No problem at all.
Makes a change from the office.
I know, yeah, it does, doesn't it? Or sitting at home, yeah.
It does, yeah. Jamie, let's start off with, tell us a bit about your background. What's your professional background?
Professional background. If I go right back to the start, when I first started working, I initially went into retail. As well as an apprenticeship after I dropped out of college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I tried to end up in the IT field, didn't really float my boat, if you like, and then accidentally fell into a sales job working at a business called Scoot. And I sold business directory listings and did really, really well. And then I just sort of took it on from there and found my own way of selling. And eventually, around actually only 12 years ago, took my career really seriously and I went into business development and marketing fields really. Took a real interest in creative sales and went into radio and then onto health and safety, strangely. But I just loved it and eventually started my own business about 4 years ago called AM Training. That didn't go the way I'd hoped, if you like. We started really, really well, but unfortunately the funding landscape in the areas that we worked in just got too difficult, and I decided a few months ago that I'm going to make a change for myself, go back into employment, and you came to the rescue.
Came to the rescue.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that because it's an interesting story as to how that happened. We're going to be talking a lot today about your history in sales and business development, but you've got an interesting kind of earlier career as well, haven't you, where you kind of went and did other things as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
As far as working your hobbies, if you like, I did quite a bit of DJing when I was younger. There's some stories behind that as well, because I ended up in a lifestyle that probably, definitely wasn't the way I wanted to go for the rest of my life, and ended up in some quite dark places actually. And from the back of that, became really sort of passionate in mental health. And then even a few years ago, one of my sons needed some support for his mental health, and we ended up going down the ADHD diagnosis pathway through my son. And actually, I started noticing signs in myself, which made sense to the whole DJ career, the music that I was into, and the lifestyle that came with that, and risk-taking and impulsivity. And I've grew a huge passion for neurodiversity, for mental health in general. I've run events on mental health, which have been really well attended as well. But yeah, it all sort of it's all fallen into place. The fact that I'm now working with you within the neurodiversity field, if you like, it's something that I've got a real passion for.
Yeah, and we're very aligned in our purpose and mission around that. And I know when we first talked about that, I mean, people struggle to get the pair of us to shut up. And it is very much a passion for both of us. We're going to be touching on a number of those things that you've talked about today. So you've been with Inspired HR for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
How are you settling in?
Almost immediately. There was a little bit of anxiety coming out of self-employment and running a business to going back into employment. And obviously being ADHD, my mind was in overdrive for the first probably 2 weeks. But then once I'd found my feet and started to understand the services that we offer and feel confident in that I can sell it, it sort of became easy in a way to settle in with you guys, because the team are very, very understanding. They're great fun. There's a lot of flexibility, which I need in my working life. So I run a football team, for example, and the flexibility around my Wednesday afternoons and being able to leave work early to go and coach my football team was a big relief, because it's a massively important part of my life. I'm really, really enjoying it. Like you say, I have to have a purpose and a passion to be able to sell and market whatever my job is. Without that, you just feel like you're going through the motions. And I find I probably struggle to settle into certain jobs in the past where I just haven't had that passion for what I'm selling, and didn't last very long. I ended up looking elsewhere or had my head turned. I don't feel that's going to be the case here. It's the services that we provide are right up my street.
We originally met a number of years ago because we've done a number of events, Prepare to be Inspired, which Zoe used to look after for me. And I originally met you when you were a speaker at one of our events. And I remember the room, just the silence when you talked about your history of what you'd gone through in your DJ days, how you turned your life around, how mental health and the struggles that you'd had. I know you've now found some answers around ADHD, and they're answers that we continue to talk about all the time. And, it's a never-ending journey, and your journey has continued with us. It's absolutely a fascinating story. And we've kind of always stayed in contact since then. You've then continued to do an event called Empower Your Voice, which is an event that we run. We were running in collaboration with you and your business, and obviously you've continued under our brand for that with Kat and Zoe. So that's kind of a regular event that we do to empower individuals that want to gain confidence in speaking in meetings or publicly on stage and things like that. And you've continued to do that. So I've known you a long time, and I remember when we met. So when we ended up talking, it was September earlier this year, and I was actually away on a business retreat in Corfu at the time. And whenever I go away to these things, I always sit and think about what is it I'm wanting to achieve? What is it I need to do? What are the next steps in my business? And I'd reached a point earlier this year where I can spot, because of my own ADHD and my own autistic traits, I can get burnout, and I have to know how to recognise when it's coming. I was reaching that point, which was why Corfu was so good for me. And I remember looking on my phone, and I'd had a conversation the night before with Kim and Sarah, who I was away on the retreat with. And I was talking about how I'd reached a point where I just couldn't do it all myself anymore. And I knew I was going to have a need for a head of client relationships or business development or something of that nature. And I knew I was having to think about it. And then that evening, I looked on my phone and I was like, oh. And you put a post on LinkedIn where you were saying, after much thought, you've decided you're looking for a new adventure, and what were you were thinking of looking, you were reaching out to your network to kind of go, does anyone know of any jobs? You've decided to kind of do something different again. Now, me knowing you and your history, my immediate thought was, is he okay? And I remember picking up the phone to you, and we weren't particularly close. You were a business associate, but that's just who I am. That's, it's that person in me. It's one of my traits. I genuinely care about the business and the network around me. So I picked up the phone to you all the way from Corfu, of a conversation of checking in on you. Are you okay? What's going on? What can I do to help? And we got talking, and you kind of were talking about what you were looking to do. And immediately my brain went, oh, well, actually, I need somebody, but at that moment in time, because I'd not looked at my business or what was going on in detail, I knew I needed someone, but was I ready for a full-time person to come into my business? It's a big commitment financially for me. And I remember saying to you, I could possibly offer you part-time. Would you be willing to job share or do anything like that? And you were really honest, which was really good. And you went, I really just want a single point of focus that drives my purpose and my passion. And yes, I love your passion around neurodiversity, and it absolutely matches my purpose and mission, but I need full time. We both said we go away and think about it, and I come off that phone and I've never had FOMO hit me like it. Oh my God. The FOMO, I was like, oh my God, this guy's brilliant. What am I doing? Quickly put in a call to my two of the senior leaders, Nick and Jenny. Nick unfortunately wasn't available. So I quickly had a chat with Jenny, how we doing as cash flow? What's the finances like? What's the projections? All the usual stuff. And I had a chat with Jenny, and she went, Nick, the business is in great shape. You've had a great couple of years. Just do what you need to do. And I remember picking up the phone to you straight away again.
20 minutes.
Actually, can I offer you a full-time job? And I was expecting you to go, yeah, brilliant. And I got, well, I really want to tie up. It's really important to do everything that I'm doing properly now, which I think is great values to have. But you were like, let me get everything tied up. Let's have a call later in the week. And in my head, I'm like, no. And you made me wait 4 days. It was the worst 4 days of my life for an answer as to whether you were going to join the business.
Sorry about that. Do you know what? The ADHD probably got the better of me. There was so many people calling and offering me things, offering me interviews, and businesses who wanted to speak to me, and which I didn't expect, not so quickly. And my brain just went into overload, and I spoke to somebody who was actually supporting me through my mental health and my ADHD journey, and she said, you need to switch your phone off for the weekend, or just ignore any business calls for a couple of days and just take a breath and understand yourself first, and what do you really want to do. But our conversation kept coming back into my mind all the time, and I was like, neurodiversity, that's exactly what it is. And I'd sort of applied or spoke to other businesses, one around mental health, which obviously excited me and interested me, and a couple of other places. But I kept coming back to this. And then when we finally had that conversation, I think we spoke for an hour and a half on the phone. I was sat in a car park, meant to be at an event, and we just spoke, and I came off the phone and rang my wife straight away and said, I think I found what I want to do. And it's just worked, hasn't it, so far? It's everything seems to be going well, and
it's brilliant.
We all get it. That's the thing. Like the best thing about being here is the lived experience, the understanding. You mentioned burnout yourself, or approaching burnout. When I was a business owner, I did go through a burnout, and quite a severe one. I ended up in therapy for over a year. Didn't need any medication, thankfully, but not that I would have turned it down if I did need it. It's mental health is something that can be helped with medication. I fully agree with that. But CBT got me through that, and talking and opening up a lot more, because although I'm a big advocate for mental health, I didn't take my own advice a lot of the time, and the burnout was so severe that I'd threatened to leave my own family, and I wanted to move house, and it was just awful. And I blamed everything else but myself and but work. Work became an addiction, and it's a long story, but it is an interesting story, and it's still always in the back of my mind that I need to be very, very careful when it comes to burnout. And I think towards the end of my tenure at AM training at my own business, I was approaching that again myself. I was constantly stressed. Things weren't going the way I wanted. I was wondering if there was any legs in the business anymore, and there clearly is, because it's still thriving now, and it's doing really well. Lucy, who's there as the ops director now, she's doing brilliantly with it, which makes me really happy. They're all my friends, and Ian, who owns AM Global, is still my best mate, which is really good. And again, that's important to me, the whole relationship thing. But what resonated throughout my conversation is that the flexibility which I needed, and I've already mentioned, but if I needed support, it was there. You didn't have to go and pay for therapy. You don't have to go and do this. And I thought, you know what? I'm prone to it. I'm ADHD. I can overwork myself, and I can overthink a lot of things. But since starting, after that first couple of weeks of anxiety, since starting, I've felt like a different person altogether. And that's what's convinced me that this is the right thing to do. This is the right place for me. There's no major pressures, which I've always said in sales is the biggest downfall is putting too much pressure on salespeople.
Yeah.
If you've got self-motivation, you don't even need a target a lot of the time. The business doing well should be your target. And I think that's where our conversation led to, is that we're not going to put targets on your head. The business has to be at a certain place. We do obviously need to see results, but them results can take time. And I've always said this with business development, it's not a quick win. It's not a quick fix for your business. No. If you want proper business development, you have to give your BDM, your business development manager, enough time to build real relationships with the clients that you want to be working with. And that's what we seem to be doing. And
flexibility and freedom has always been very important to me. I mean, I know not every business can do it. I've built a culture where I say to my team, where you do your hours and what you do. I don't mind where you do your hours or how you do it, as long as the work gets done. It's about making sure you're available for the clients, and the work gets done, and it gets done well. I've always been very much a quality over quantity person. And I know, the flexibility of, I say to my team, we don't deny holidays, we cover for each other. If you need a holiday or you're asking for it, there's a reason. I mean, I sat and approved all your holidays yesterday, by the way. You might have noticed.
Yeah,
just approve. Yeah, for me, When I went into business, what was so important to me was the flexibility, the freedom, never missing a school concert, never missing those time with the children. And I've always worked that way with my team, where as long as the work gets done, it gets done well. I don't mind where you do your hours. I know not every business can work that way. You know, you've probably noticed I'm dead chilled when something occurs and you go, just, yeah, it's okay, it's fine, wherever.
Yeah.
Not a problem at all. And we've built a great culture and a team around that. And I think those values have come from my experience, not so good experience in my corporate days, where I didn't get that. And, which is why that's something that's really important to me. And it's something we encourage within our clients as well. Passion and purpose is really important to you. Mm-hmm. And I know your backstory. I know how you've turned your life around. And in the time I've really got to know you in the last couple of months, and for anyone that sits with us, they can't get a word in edgeways. We're lethal when we talk, 2 ADHD chatterboxes when we get together. I know what is so important to you is your children. Mm-hmm. And that comes through every time you talk about your boys, when they say a light comes on in someone's face and their eyes, I just see that with your boys. And I know where you turned your life around. Your boys have driven that purpose for you. Tell me about your boys.
Yes, so I've got 2 lads, aged 12 and 8, and they are the apples of my eye. I absolutely adore them both. And the hard work, because all kids are, I suppose, but my eldest, he's diagnosed ADHD. And he's still going through this pathway now. He's finally got his appointments with SIPs, which are starting next week, actually. So this week, actually. So we're hopefully going to be starting to get some more answers for him, because he struggles in school at times with the social side of it. We've gone through issues of bullying and things throughout the last sort of 3 or 4 years, if not longer. And even when I started with Inspired, we had an issue more or less straight away, which we ended up having to get the police involved. And the flexibility and the family first approach is what's made me feel so at home, I think. You said that's more important than work. Yes, work is important, but family is the most important thing. And that resonates with me massively. But yeah, my boys, I think I've always been Thomas's comfort blanket. So through his early years, he was severely anxious, and he still has bouts of anxiety now, but severely anxious to a point where I sleep in his bed for around 3 years, because if he woke in the night, he had panic attacks. And I think that's what brought myself and Thomas so close. And he is a right daddy's boy, if you like. And we do a lot of things together. Football is our biggest passion between us. It's all we talk about. It's all we think about. We play FIFA. We go to Middlesbrough matches. And my youngest is... he's more into his basketball and his karate and things like that, which have never been passions of mine, but now they're passions of Jack's. I go and watch him. So I was at karate last night, and to see him do something that he loves is amazing. When Thomas, my eldest, was younger, he told me one day on the way back from football training that he doesn't want to do football anymore. And I was like, right, okay. I said, what do you want to do then? And he went dancing. And as a dad, I was mad about football. I was gutted. But I told my wife, and she was over the moon, and she said, right, well, let's go and get him into street dancing. Honestly, I could have cried watching him every time. He was unbelievable. He came second in a competition in the Northeast. Wow. And then he just stopped. It was like, it's almost like I've completed that. And I went, right, this is when these sort of signs started showing. I thought, he changes his friends so often, he changes his passions so often, he hyper-focuses on something until he feels he's done. Yeah. But with football, he's just kept going and going. And ultimately, when you say I do everything for my kids, I do. Thomas was struggling in a team that I used to coach and had left. And I've started my own football team so he could play football. And actually, I've got now 18 lads who are pretty much all neurodivergent, and we've got like kids with autism, I've got kids with ADHD, and a crossover that are diagnosed and probably some undiagnosed. And last season was a real struggle for performances, but we spent the year understanding the boys and making sure that they understood each other and working on teamwork and togetherness. And we finished bottom of the whole pyramid last season, and this year we're unbeaten in the league. We've just won 8-3 on Saturday. So the turnaround has been massive. And I think understanding neurodiversity in my recent journey, understanding my kids' neurodiverse conditions, because although Jack isn't diagnosed or started any pathway, we think he probably is ADHD. He's cliche ADHD. He's hyper. He climbs on furniture. He can't sit still. He's hyper focuses on his passions as well. And it's helped me to sort of build this team and build this togetherness as well. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but when I get talking about my kids, that's it. I do. The apples in my eye. I can't explain it in any other way. Everything I do now is for them. When my wife was heavily pregnant with our first child, I'd gone on a stag do and came home absolutely off my face. And my wife looked at me and she said, "What are you doing? What if I went into labour now? What if my water's broke now?" And I was not in any state to do anything. I was a joke. And that's when the penny dropped. And I thought, I need to do something for my son. Mm-hmm. When he's born, I need to make a difference. And I changed my life. I changed my lifestyle. We moved to Sunderland not long before that. And I just thought, well, this is my chance now to do something with myself. I left the job that I was in that I hated at the time. I went and tried something new. I went into media, did some business development. I went travelling around the country doing sales seminars and things like that. And that's when I sort of found my passion in business development itself, selling in a different way, building relationships. But it wouldn't, I don't think I'd have ever got out of that rut if I didn't have kids.
You've had some real valuable lessons from your boys. And I remember we all have a trigger for a big change in our life. You talk about the trigger of the penny dropping with Jade and the pending birth of your first child. I had very similar when the doctor said to me many years ago, not long after I'd had my son Thomas, of lose the weight or you're not going to see your children grow up. And that led to me on a journey of losing nearly 10 stone over the next year or two and going on that journey as well. So I do know sometimes we just have a trigger point in our life. You talk about all of the success that you've had with the football team. And what I picked up on during that was getting to know all of the boys, meeting all of their needs and understanding all of their needs, and then talking about the success that has brought you. And that's in a boys' football team. Could you imagine that working in business? Just think about the success. And these are conversations we have within our HR teams, our clients all the time. If you get to know your people, understand what motivates them, help them understand each other, think about the success that can bring. And as you said, a majority of the boys potentially are neurodivergent or neurodiverse. And we're all neurodiverse. We're not all neurodivergent, but we're all neurodiverse. And you've taken the time to get to know and meet the needs of all of those boys and help them understand each other as well. And that's been a big success for you. Could you imagine what a business can do if they can harness that with their employee base?
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned Empower Your Voice, which is the public speaking community that myself, Zoe and Kat run. And my most recent talk was around how the lads at football actually taught me more about leadership than anything I ever learned in business. So understanding them, understanding their requirements, what makes them tick, what's going to trigger them, what's going to cause a meltdown. And it isn't easy, don't get me wrong, but once you start to understand neurodiversity, and you will 100% have neurodivergent people in your business. The vast majority of businesses will have, I think the statistics, 1 in 5. Yeah. So that's a lot of people in the UK. And I know that we're waking up to it a little bit more, but businesses, I think, still need to do more. I had a conversation with someone at a networking event a few months ago, and they said that they think the world should change and that every single service should be with neurodiverse people in mind, because neurotypical people wouldn't notice the difference. And it made me start thinking in a different way. And I actually use that in a lot of conversations now because it's right. Like, we might notice colour schemes. Colour schemes, for example, we'll get sensory overloads. If there's too noisy, there's smells, there's all this. But neurotypical people probably wouldn't notice a lot of that. So why aren't we moving to make workplaces completely neurodiverse accepting, because their staff who are neurotypical just wouldn't notice a difference. No. I think the screening services that Inspired Minds offer, and as well as the support that the Inspired HR offer to employers as well, is making a massive difference. The more businesses that start to understand how this screening can support an employer to thrive but also protect their business in far as like making sure there's reasonable adjustments put in place if they're needed. Understanding that the reasonable adjustments don't have to cost thousands and thousands of pounds. You can have podcasts, you can have access to work funding in place, things like the loop earplugs to cut out background noise, which are fantastic. All of these things that they don't cost the earth. No. In fact, a lot of it can be funded for you or for your employee. But I think that there's some businesses and certainly some industries that need to catch up. And that's my mission is with Inspired, is to make sure that businesses who aren't taking neurodiversity as seriously as they probably should do start to sit up and take notice that actually we are a brilliant breed of people, and we just need some extra support to make us thrive.
We do, and I often say, I remember when I first discovered I'm self-recognised. I've not gone the diagnosis route. It was a personal choice that I chose not to make. And I've had many a conversation about this. I did a podcast with Janine recently about to diagnose or not to diagnose, where we talked about it. And there's pros and benefits to screening and diagnosis. When I thought about the benefits to diagnosis, which was about clarity, I already had clarity. I'd done so many screenings and I'm very self-aware. I know myself inside out. So the only benefit I was going to get was the access to medication. And that's a personal choice I've chosen not to go down. So I chose not to go the diagnostic route, but I've gone multiple screenings that has given me all of the insights that I've needed, which is why, we specialise in this. We are a unique business model. I certainly don't know any other organisation in the UK. There is neurodiverse organisations out there, therapy, psychology businesses that specialise in neurodiversity. There is lots of HR consultancies like I originally set up 9 years ago, but I've not come across any crossover of an organisation that is specialist in employment law and HR as well as neurodiversity. And that began with my own journey 5-6 years ago now, where I really went all in depth, that hyper focus, real in depth passion, and what turned into a passion project for my son, and understanding my son ended up me discovering a lot more about myself and how it runs in my family. When I then disclosed my ADHD and my autism and my traits, and I talk about it, I still have people now that will not share where they are self-recognised or diagnosed within the business community that I have conversations with. And it's because there's still that huge fear of being judged. There's still a lot of work to do within the world, which, we're on a mission to do. Is it all a bed of roses? No, it's not. We struggle, we burn out. We have a lot of challenges, which is why I sometimes struggle with certain phrases like when an adult is told, oh, it's a superpower. It's not a superpower. Trust me, I have rough days. I just don't always put it out there. But I'm also very open. People know that my house looks like a bomb zitter, except for my home office, because my passion is trainers and bags. So that's the only tidy thing in my house.
Yeah, learned that.
But we are on a mission. We love what we do. And I know that purpose and that passion is really important to you. But the way we do sales or business development, whatever people want to call it, for me, it has to be done in a certain way. So when I first set up in business, I didn't want those quick wins in sales. I didn't want cold calling. I didn't want advertising. I didn't want all the typical quick wins. For me, it's quality over quantity when it comes to what we do. It always has been. So when I've always done, how do I build my business? My focus on acquiring clients has always been around that long-term game. Now, I joined BNI when I started my business, which for those who don't know, it's a networking. It's where you build relationships and your own marketing team of other small businesses around you that help you grow. There's some lessons I learned in those from my early days that were really important to me around building my business. And one is be visible. So visibility, they call it VCP, visibility, then become credible, and then it leads to profitability. So VCP. And I've also got another favourite saying, know, like, and trust. If people know you, if they like you, and they trust you, the work will come your way. Yeah. I have quite a big network of HR consultants around the UK, and I quite often get asked, where do you find your clients? How do you build your business? Where does it all come from? And I always say to people, it's a long game. you've got to start getting to know people. It's not about walking into a room and thrusting your business card under their nose, because I can guarantee you will not get business that way. What is the most important thing for you with your career and the lessons that you've learned around a consultant being able to build their business? So imagine you've got a consultant just starting out. What advice would you be giving them?
If you're just starting out, it absolutely is getting noticed. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. I mean, business development and marketing should really work hand in hand. But the way that I've always done it myself is initially to network. You need to get out there. You need to get noticed by people. You need to build relationships that are meaningful. You need to stick to your promises. And if you do make a mistake, hold your hands up, and that's how you build trust. And I think if you're not credible, people will eventually realise that, and it just seems that you're in it for the quick sales game. Yeah. Networking is an issue for some businesses, I think. So they see networking as a bit of a morning off or whatever. But actually, it's even if you're seeing the same people in the room week in, week out, you are building them relationships. And I've always said to people who just start out networking, don't expect to come into the room and walk out with business. That's not the nature of networking. No. That's not what we're there for. What we're there is to build relationships with the people that you see regularly. And what might happen is they might have someone in their network who needs HR services in this case. Or they might ask you, if you know anybody who needs their services, you can then do them the favour, provide the contact, do a bit of an introduction, and that should always come back to you as well in some way. There's so many benefits to networking that even when I joined the Inspired, I asked if you were members of the North East Chamber of Commerce, which you weren't. And so we've joined that, and already we're starting to feel the benefits of that, being up on stage last week, being asked to do a workshop. All of these things that you might be asked to do are ways of marketing yourself. So even in a workshop scenario, yes, it's education, you're teaching people, you're helping them get better at what they do or what they need to do. But at the same time, you're advertising yourself. Yeah. LinkedIn has always been a massive tool for me. To blow my own trumpet, I'm up to 14,002 followers now. So I was like, a little celebration with that one. I noticed last week when I did my training.
I thought I had a good LinkedIn until I looked at yours. I was like, okay.
So I used to push it a lot years ago, and then it's almost LinkedIn farming. I used to just connect to anybody, and there's pros and cons to that. But some training you go on, they might tell you to do that and follow and connect with anybody and everybody to get your profile moving. But then it's when does that stop? And it almost became an addiction in itself as well. Yeah. It's like, I want to see my followers go up. I want my engagement to go up. LinkedIn needs to be a tool that you use. We're in a business-to-business world when it comes to sales. But we're probably not going to find as much on the likes of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and these others. We're in a serious business in the end. And so LinkedIn has to be something that I think business development managers and people starting their own businesses need to be using on a regular basis. And that it means engaging with other people's content, liking and sharing where you can. Posting at least once a week. Make sure that you're visible and make that post meaningful. Make it personal, I think, because that's how people get to know you, and absolutely people buy from people. So if you can create that level of trust and build a relationship, become a friend to somebody, they're more likely to recommend you to their network, or they're more likely to use you when they eventually need your services. Don't think there's such a thing as a quick win in the business development world. We're not sitting and hammering phones, trying to cold call as much. No. We might do a little bit of that, but ultimately LinkedIn is my tool to get that warm introduction, and make it a warm introduction. Don't go in with the sales message straight away. Salespeople even switch off to that and then go off and do it themselves. And I've never understood that. I think if you've just started your own consultancy or your own business as well, don't really take notice of your experience of sales in the past. And by that, I mean, you'll have had managers most likely who are cracking the whip and demanding that you do 25 calls a day or 100 calls a day in some places, or 100 touch points in a week. That might not be how your business needs to work. It needs to work for you. And certainly when I had my own business, I did it my own way. I went out and networked heavily. I hammered the likes of LinkedIn and social media and made sure that we were noticed, and that came to fruition quite early. We got some contracts very early and won a lot of work really early, and had to take on staff really early. So that worked really well. Yeah. It might not work for every business.
Nope.
It depends if you've got the time to do it. So like you said, you needed some extra time for yourself, although that probably isn't happening at the moment because it's so busy.
We'll come on to that.
No, but you have to make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're visible. Make sure you follow up on what you've offered and be credible and trustworthy is the main advice I would probably give. And network.
Authentic, trustworthy, visible. So much valuable tips there. When I brought you into my business, I remember having a conversation with you of, okay, I thought I was going to need part-time, but I brought you in full-time and I was like, champion, I can get so much time back and I can completely step back and focus on my business and do all of this stuff I want to do and, all this stuff that I'm looking to roll out for our client base and everything next year. That hasn't happened because exactly all the tips that you have just talked about that has built that incredible network that you have got. It's followed you.
Yeah.
So when you came over to my business, a combination of those great skills for doing business, those connections that you built, and the passion and purpose that you have around the services that we offer combined, I've actually ended up putting more hours in to help us cope with everything that's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just shows that you were the best decision ever. I mean, we had this conversation the other day that when you come in, I saw you struggle those first couple of weeks. I could see it in the way you responded to your messages to me, and I was trying to reassure you, it's okay, don't worry, stop, lose the anxiety, you don't need to have it with us. But I understand you had to go through that journey. And when it come to where we are now, and I've never seen my lead board like it. I mean, we're literally hands up. We're struggling to keep on top of it at the moment. And we've had to reel in some of our plans for next year because, again, we want to do things well in quality over quantity. So we've had to reel in some of that work. But it's massively, massively showing that everything you're talking about for anyone building their own consultancy, that is it. I mean, we don't use TikTok. We don't use Instagram. We have the odd post on Facebook, but not very often. I moved away from that platform. We're very much LinkedIn. And I've seen the posts that you put in and the reactions and the connections and the comments. I mean, you have a fabulous network. People can learn so much from what you do. So being authentic, being you is just absolutely pivotal to your business. And it is a long game. It is a long game. We have got this big lead board. We've built a lot of specialisms around what we do. And I mean, you've come in as a part of the leadership team, and there's yourself, there's Jenny, there's Nick, and there's me as the senior leadership team, and you've just absolutely embraced it. And I absolutely get, and I know I asked this to you a number of times, it's got to be hard coming from running your own business to going back into employment. And something I will never do is make people feel like they're being micromanaged. I want you to have the freedom. I want people to make mistakes so that we can learn from them. None of us are perfect. I've made mistakes myself. And that's really, really important. But what you have done is you've brought in conversations into my business that even I didn't have the confidence to have. Now, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've done it well. I've come from a standalone individual 9 years ago to a thriving business of there's anything between 12 and 15 of us in the business at any one time, depending on where I'm using some associates for work as it goes up and down. And I'm proud of what I built, and I know my neurodivergence has absolutely driven that behind me. But you've made me be brave in some of the conversations that we're having as well, because we're now in talks with organisations for much bigger contracts and bigger pieces of work that I would never have targeted before you've come in. And I think that's really important, because I think they always say bring somebody in better than yourself. And I know you're pulling a face at that. But I have my strengths, but I have my challenges as well. All people see is, people put you on a pedestal. I'm not as confident as people think I am. I've spent 33 years mastering how to hide confidence levels and project what you want people to see. But I spent 24 years in corporates, and we're in talks with some big corporates. We're in talks with some big public sector organisations for contracts, and really enabling them to embrace this neurodiversity focus and inclusivity that we want to become norm in any business, not something to implement because somebody's declared they're neurodiverse. We want it to be the norm because not everybody knows that they're neurodiverse or neurodivergent at the moment. And that's really important that you brought that bravery to me. And I remember bearing in mind that we are ADHD. And I often say in training, please stop saying people, let's get a meeting in the diary or let's have a minute. And even with yourself, when I say to you, and I said this to you last week, can you book something in my diary for a one-to-one catch-up about how you're settling in and how you're getting on? And I immediately put nothing to worry about. You're doing brilliant. It's just a catch-up.
Yeah.
And they're little things that people can make a difference in the business of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you touched on there around the bravery. I mean, I see that as more of thinking outside the box a little bit. I think that's probably one of my strengths, and probably working in the creative sectors in the past has helped me to do that, because I'd sat with creative writers and they would have to think outside the box, and it sort of made me rethink some strategy that I had around business development and things as well. It's a really interesting industry, being in radio. I loved it. But the bravery, I probably don't see it as bravery anymore. I probably used to have to get brave to be able to approach companies of the size that we're speaking with at the moment, and public sector as well. But I think that's important if you're starting your own consultancy, your own business as well, is that if you need to make yourself stand out, so thinking outside the box is very important. Some of the contracts that you're talking about there around employing people who've been employed for a number of years or may have a disability or neurodiversity or mental health or need mental health support. And I looked at the screening that we offer and I thought, well, that suits my old industry that I had a business in perfectly. There's so many people who need so much support within the prison system, within coming out of education, who haven't had that support throughout school life and then don't know which direction they need to go in. And this screening can give you some answers. When I was diagnosed, and I had a really good diagnosis with a charity that I was working with actually, and they offered me loads of support afterwards through access to work with coaching, but a lot of people don't even know that's there. No. I think the screening that we offer through Inspired Minds has opened the eyes of some of these organisations that are winning huge government contracts and I'm thinking, actually, we've got a potential route to support this person into meaningful employment, not just putting them into a factory because that's the easiest place for them to go, which happens a lot, unfortunately. Let's have a look at what their strengths and challenges are. If they're creative, let's have a look in the creative industries for them. They might be able to go and write a radio advert. They might be able to go and design something on a computer. They just don't have the confidence to, or don't know where to start to be able to go into that job. They haven't had the right career guidance through school because it's pretty much non-existent now. Yeah. And education doesn't suit a lot of neurodiverse people. No. It certainly didn't with me. I hated school. I loved the social aspect. I hated learning. I eventually owned a training company that supported neurodiverse people. So it tells you everything. If it's done in the right way, we will thrive. And we saw that in our training courses, which, although I'm not there anymore, I'm still very, very proud of the support that we gave people who've been out of work for years and years and years, and are now in work. If we had access to this screening tool, and I knew more about it at the time, and we had funding available, that would have been a tool absolutely that we would have offered people on our courses, because although I've been diagnosed, that probably gave me more answers around work life, certainly, and well-being than I'd ever had just through a straight diagnosis. And a lot of people in work and out of work and businesses should be looking at this. And I'm not just saying it because it's my job. I'm really passionate about these. I think that they're going to make a massive, massive difference.
And they're many a conversation we're having. And the reality is that is going to bring business and grow, and I guess for the HR consultants that probably have got when they're listening to our podcast, they're thinking, okay, but how is this going to help my business? Well, it's going to help you grow, because this is actually going into a service that is much needed out there and actually isn't really out there at the moment. And I know I went on a live webinar last week with Professor Amanda Kirby, who is the founder and the global leader in neurodiversity that designed this screening platform that we use, Do It. And she's phenomenal. And me and her were talking last week about how does this tool enable me to support my clients, but also build my business. And we talked about all the different ways this screening tool can be used. And yes, when I was first introduced to it, I was introduced to it because it gave me insight it took a strength-based approach at a single moment in time around my responses. It's not a clinical report and, none of us are psychologists, but what it did do is it gave me insights to traits and at what level were they within 6 common conditions. And I remember looking at that front sheet in the 6 conditions and seeing that autistic crossover that I didn't even know existed. I just assumed it was ADHD, and realizing that answered so many questions. I mean, like you at school, my attendance in my last year at school, I was bored 40% in my last year at school. You wouldn't get away with that now, but in my days you did. And I dropped out of school with no qualifications. I had a good head on my shoulders, but education route at that point was not the route for me. So I've spent many years training in my own way, in my own terms, because education didn't work for me. But this tool, when I talked about it with Amanda last week, it's not just about helping people recognise where they might have traits of neurodiversity. It can be used for so much more. And these are some of the conversations we've had. People within the judicial system, how can it help understand how it might affect behaviours within a prison, behaviours outside a prison, helping people understand themselves and helping them find work and help them give reassurance and support and guidance to workplaces and how they can support that individual, what challenges will they have so they can hit the ground running with them in support and enable them to thrive, helping the long-term unemployed get back into work. And within this screening report, yes, there is a front page that kind of gives you a level of neurodivergent traits and at what level within 6 conditions. But actually, if you remove that front page for people that don't want that insight, you still get all of the strengths, the challenges and the resources, which is that deeper insight that enables people to understand themselves and other people understand them and where their success and challenges are going to be. I mean, it is a fantastic tool. And we're going out and talking about that, which is, it is going to grow the business. We've got some huge plans and growth. I mean, our businesses hit nearly 80% 2 years, year on year growth all around the neurodiversity stuff. And for a HR consultant, they've got to start looking ahead. We do spot one of our traits is we spot gaps in the market way ahead of other people, which is why we're ahead on this. But I've never been a person that's gone, I know this, I'm going to keep it to myself. Nobody else is going to get that. I'm very much, we've got to share that and share that knowledge and experience. So, we've got services that we deliver for other HR consultants on this so they can build their own arm of the business. So they might kind of go, yes, we know it's a gap and that would really help my clients, but I don't have that. We do that for you. Yeah. But obviously the way that we're approaching it and we're working together is making a real difference in the way it's growing the business and building, and people can take lessons from that. Yeah,
no, I was going to say one of the tactics that I think we're looking at now under business development is looking for associates, really. It's looking for people who could benefit from this, whose clients could benefit from the screening service and the ADHD and autism support and everything else that we do, but they don't have that specialism in their business. And I think if I was starting my own consultancy, that's one of the first things that I would do from a business development point of view is look at, right, who's got a specialism in AI, who's got a specialism in GDPR, who's got a specialism in neurodiversity or disability at work or something, and build my network that way, because you can't do it all yourself. No. So like you use associates who have specialisms in certain areas or for work that we probably wouldn't take on, and that includes the solicitors that we work with, Richard Reed. We can take it to a certain point and then you're going to need that next level of support and then come back to us as and when. I think trying to take on too much work, certainly initially, is detrimental to your own business and detrimental to your own mental health. I've been there as well. So it's you're right. I think the whole associate world has probably become part of your network, and find them groups that there will be other HR consultants there. Go and speak to them about what you do. Good business people will share knowledge, will share best practice. You'll find a lot of business development people will happily share contacts and share good knowledge again. And it's important, I think, for any business to make sure that you are sharing knowledge. Certainly now, I mean, I think the COVID pandemic taught businesses a lot of lessons, and having to look out for each other as a business community. We all struggled in that time. Business development people badly struggled. We didn't have networking to go to. We had to sit on Zoom to talk to people, and it was mind-numbing. It really was. And the anxiety levels were so high between a lot of us, and certainly through myself. I thought I was going to lose my house, lose my car, etc. Eventually, it went back to normal, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
And we got back out there and started networking again. But it did teach me lessons of actually, I need to share even more. I need to help people even more. And it was a scary time. And you sort of took a lot of for granted when you're involved in sales. Like, sales became easy in a lot of ways and for a lot of people. And then COVID just stopped that. And it was like, wow, how do we survive now as salespeople, as business development people? And a lot of that, again, was networking, sharing contacts, relying on your contacts. If you ask for something, do they follow up?
Yeah.
Can you trust your contacts? Can you be the person they trust? There was so much going through my head, but actually I need to even then change tactic on what I'm doing. And I think it's, in a lot of ways, that it's benefited how I work and made me more trustworthy. Not that I wasn't before, but it just, if I say I'm going to do something, I make sure I follow up and I make sure I do it.
And there are a couple of things that we talked about, the importance of, if you say you're going to do it, do it. Yeah. I'm very much collaboration over competition. I always have done. There's a lot of work out there for all of us. I'm well known for supporting other HR consultants, sharing my experience, my high, my lows, because I've been on that journey of loneliness. I've been on my own. There was none of these groups around at the beginning. You've touched on a couple of really important bits there that I think is really important. And when it comes to getting to know, like, and trust and build that visibility and credibility, I think our stories are always something that should be shared. That's why we're very open about our own neurodivergence and our own stories and our triggers in life and things that have led to that. How has your challenges around mental health and your ADHD, how do you use that in the best possible way around authenticity in the way that you do business?
I'm honest about it. I think I'm a very open person anyway. It's probably sometimes too open. I don't think it'd be too honest, but sometimes maybe we overshare.
We overshare.
Which is a trait.
It's one of our traits.
But I took up public speaking. Zoe convinced me that I need to go and do a bit of a workshop. And I fell in love with it. And I used that opportunity to talk about mental health the first ever time. And I actually broke down in tears on stage. It was a bit too raw. A friend of mine had not long passed away, and he had his mental issues. But it felt, even though I was really upset when I came off and probably a bit embarrassed, I got the buzz. And I was like, this is powerful. I can get up on stage and speak to multiple people in a room and tell a story or part of a story. And whether that's related to business or not, you're building your personal brand through that and you're becoming a thought leader, I think. And certainly with mental health and burnout in particular, and with neurodiversity, it's such a big passion now that every opportunity I get to get up on stage, I'm talking about it. Most of the time, it's around struggles, and the same on LinkedIn. Most of the time, it's around the realities of running a business, the realities of ADHD, the good times and the bad times. Burnout was a major part of my life, and it's something that I always look back at, because if I don't control that, or I don't have the support in making sure that I don't burn out, I do have that flexibility. I make sure I try and switch off on a night. Not the easiest thing to do when you're in business development, but you try. So, I mean, relating that to if you're starting your own consultancy, I think getting up on stage, getting the confidence to get up on stage and tell a story, whether it is around mental health or it's around your journey or it's around neurodiversity or just why you're passionate about HR, get up and do it. Most people will really, really love it. Come to the Empower Your Voice sessions if you're based in the Northeast and just give it a go. It's a really good way to get started in public speaking. And I've never looked back. I absolutely love getting up on stage now. You still get the nerves and you still get the butterflies in your belly, but I don't think I'll ever get over that. But once you get moving and people are nodding in approval or laughing at your little jokes that you put in, you settle into it and it resonates. You mentioned the Prepare to Be Inspired event. It was the first real event that I spoke at. Probably 50, 60 people in that room, which was nerve-wracking. And I delved into addictions and what that meant and my own dark days and burnout and things like that as well. And that story resonated with so many people that my LinkedIn went crazy. people were pulling me to one side at the end of that saying their son's been through this or their parents went through this and they've experienced this and that. So I continued to talk about it. And actually it was so important because the business I ran was working with a number of charities like Recovery Connections, for example, and Clean Slate in Middlesbrough, who supported people who've been in the prison system or had addiction. The more I learned about neurodiversity, it links all back in as well. So we take risks. We're impulsive, and so I thought, well, that's my thing. It all links in: mental health, neurodiversity, addiction, the prison system, and I tried to make a difference there. And it did. It helped build my network and build credibility. But I'm not just trying to build credibility. I'm really, really passionate about making a difference in all of them worlds, in all 4 of them areas.
And you've picked up on something there that I think is actually a real key takeaway, I think, from our conversation for the listeners, which is actually getting up on stage and sharing your story. You do it frequently. I do it frequently. You're getting asked a lot more. I'm beginning to think I'm starting to get FOMO. I tell you, you get asked more than I do now. But yeah, getting up on stage and sharing your story, and that is about authentic and enabling that connection and shared and lived experience. And I know with the neurodiversity work that we do, all of our coaches and screeners have lived experience. Now, when I say lived experience, I don't mean everyone is neurodivergent. I mean, they might have children that are neurodivergent. They have lived experience. And I think for us, creating that real safe space and that genuine safe space is really important. I think we've had some great conversations today. I mean, certainly some of the things that I think we're going to take away is visible, authenticity, connection, being brave, having the confidence to pursue, creating those long-term relationships. And it doesn't matter if you go into a room and see lots of people that you've known and seen quite a lot. I think we're always adapting and learning as well. For me, it's always been the long game, not the short game. I know, there's always different things. And I think as you evolve as a business, that changes. I do a lot more public speaking now, and, you're out there a lot more with the clients. I think our client relationships are really important as well. So, where we call ourselves client relationships, I know as part of our focus now that you're settled in, we'll be making sure that real relationship value that I have as one of my company values is really embedded. And we're making sure that we have those clear, real relationships with our clients, not just going out there to create new clients, but actually looking after our current clients. I think that's really important as well. Those connections, getting to know. I mean, things like I picked up the phone to one of my clients, for any of those that have ever listened to my podcast with Paul Edwards, one of our clients, our commercial cleaning company that we work with. I have a fantastic relationship with him, and we both do it. Whenever we have a birthday, we pick up the phone and we sing happy birthday to each other. And, I have a fantastic relationship. And I don't speak to the clients as much now because I work more on my business than in it. I've got a lot of the team that look after, but I just think those client relationships are really important. So client relationships, connection, authenticity, share your stories, because you never know who you're going to inspire in that room. Think of business development as a long game. I just think it's not quick wins. It's not cold calling. It's not targets. That's right for some industries, but it's not right for all of them. I really enjoyed our talk, Jamie. I think there's a lot people can take away from our talk, and it has enabled our business to grow and thrive. So hopefully some others will take lots away from it. If there is any final tip you would like to share, what would it be?
You probably touched on it yourself there, and it's that business development starts internally. It's who you're already working with. There's nothing better than a recommendation or referral from a current client. It's the best marketing you can do, and it's the best business development you can do. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know our clients now that I've had a couple of months to understand what we're doing, get to know our current clients, see what else we can do to support them. And that might not even be something that we offer as a service. It could be, I know someone from networking that I can introduce to them and say, actually, I know someone who can help you out. That you don't always have to be selling. It's a major part of business development to offer other services, I believe, anyway. Can your network support them? Make your clients sticky. They won't want to leave you if you're doing them going the extra mile. Yeah. So that's probably my tip. Start internally and go the extra mile.
And I think that's really good, and that's something we've always valued. So if we don't do it, we've built a whole network around us that do. So when I say we're full service, we may not have an internal team that do it, but I know somebody else that does. And I think that's a really important tip actually for those that are listening around building their business, is just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you can't offer it. Instead of build an associate and a network and connections that can support you in that. And again, they should be having their own visibility, credibility, and obviously out of that, it builds that profitability for your business as well. Yeah. Jamie, I've really enjoyed our chat.
So
I'm certainly excited for what we're going to achieve over the coming years. It's a long-term plan. We've talked about that. Thank you for joining us. For those who are listening today, don't forget to leave a review, share our podcast, and we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Thanks for listening to the HR Business Blueprint podcast. For any information on what we've covered in this episode, head over to the show notes. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thanks for listening.